What is up, everyone? Today I'm going to show you how I teach fat loss and muscle building, right? This is the masterclass. This is how I went from this to this, right? Everything you need to know summarized right here in this YouTube video. Let's get straight to it. So let's start with the fat loss side of things, right? It really comes down to a couple of things. First of all, when you hear about fat loss, what's the first thing most people think of? Calorie deficit. Makes sense. Because at the end of the day, what you want to be doing is burning more energy than you are consuming, right? Because what is food? Food is energy. Excess energy that you don't use is stored in the body. How is it stored in the body? It's stored as fat. Very simple, right? How can you improve this calorie deficit? Move more, right? Obviously, I cannot spell, right? But you want to move more. Why do you want to move more? Move more just allows you to burn more calories. It's very simple. Anyone who tells you that this fat loss stuff is too complicated is wrong and lazy, right? And they're overcomplicating it, and someone sold them a lie. What could movement be? Again, it's simple. It could just be walking. That's why you hear 10K steps everywhere. It just helps you burn the excess fat. Very simple, right? And fat actually, walking actually targets fat specifically. So, you know, instead of burning your muscle, it burns your fat. But it's just also your workouts and, basically everything you're doing to keep active. And then, of course, the other side of it is nutrition. What is nutrition? You know what nutrition is, right? That was a joke. You know that you need to eat well. What is eating well? You need to have the right amount of the right foods. What is the right amount of right foods? So on my program and on with my clients, we use something called the plate method, which is what I use over here. And the plate method is very simple. The plate method is you use the same plate every single day, right, for every single meal, and you split it into proportions. So 50 to 75% of your plate should be made up of high quality sources of protein. Think your meat, think your fish, think your eggs. Then the other 25 to 50% should be made up of high quality sources of carbohydrates. Think rice, potatoes, vegetables, so maybe some fruit, that sort of thing. When you stick to this, it allows a couple of things. One, the reason we use the same plate is so that you don't have to count calories. How does this work? Well, if you stick to your plate method, you stick to your plate, your percentages that I've told you, you pick something in that range and you stick to it, and you do everything else right, your training, etc., and you track your weight and you track your progress, you use progress photos. After a week or two, you can see every week if you're making progress in the right direction. If you're not, you can either reduce the portions on your plate, the volume on your plate. You can change the portions around, etc. But it allows you to do what counting calories does without having to weigh everything like a weirdo, right? You ain't a bodybuilder. Relax. So that is what it comes down to in nutrition. Stick to that. Now, calorie deficit, and this might shock you, is not the be all end all, right? When it comes to fat loss, what's very important as well is your hormones, because at the end of the day, you can have your macros and everything, your protein, everything on point, but if your hormones are out of whack, you're not going to get the body you deserve. And that's one of the biggest things that stopped me from being like this when I was like this, right? Because I was training more in this photo. I was training less. I'm training less now in this photo, right? I'm eating probably more or the same good food in this photo than I was here. So what's going on? Well, it comes down to hormones. Your two main hormones, right? You got your there's meant to be three. Let's put an imaginary one here, right? You've got your insulin, your testosterone, and your cortisol. What are these? So let's start with insulin. Insulin is what the body releases when you consume loads of sugar. So your carbohydrates, whether it's healthy or not, it releases it in order to store it as energy, right? To stop, you don't want too much sugar in the blood. That's what the body is for. That's what the insulin is for, right? So if you eat loads and loads of sugar every day, loads of processed sugar, right? Loads of donuts, loads of cake, even just loads of rice, right? For example, your body has to keep releasing insulin to keep everything in balance. Then this leads to insulin resistance. When you are insulin resistant, your body cannot do this process as effectively, which is why people get diabetes, right? And they need to start taking injections and everything like that to release more insulin. Of course, this also leads to more fat being stored. You see how it's all starting to make sense, right? So even if you're eating in the plate, in the right plate method or etc., and you're eating like less calories, if you're eating too many carbs, I'm not saying carbs are bad, but too many carbs, you can see how this starts to become a problem. Now, on the other hand, we've got testosterone and cortisol. Right. Let's put that there. Cortisol. You right? You know, that is going to bug me because it needs to be in capital letters. All right. Cool. So, what is cortisol? Very simple. Testosterone and cortisol. Testosterone is the main sex hormone for men, right? It allows you to feel strong, build muscle, feel confident. All those sort of things, you know, typically associated with manliness comes through testosterone. However, there's also cortisol, and cortisol is your stress hormone. These two compete. They do not like to be together. If you have more testosterone, probably have less cortisol, and vice versa. So, if you're always stressed and you're like really stressed with work and everything's going well training wise and eating wise, but you're just super stressed and you can't sleep and this and that, your cortisol is going to be higher. Your body's in a stress mode, it's in survival state. Now, what does that mean? It means that it's going to hold on to fat. That is what cortisol does. Why? Because cortisol will hold your fat in order to allow you to have energy for life or death situations, because that's what your body thinks it's in when it's really stressed all the time. Because remember, when humans were not living in like modern society, right? When they were super stressed, right? Like we get just from sitting down on a computer and having meetings. They got that when their life was in danger. Now our life isn't in danger, but we still feel the same threat level. So we feel the same stress, right? So our bodies are holding onto fat because it thinks, okay, you know, we might be out without food for a while. Who knows where we are? We need to have energy. So let's store onto this fat. You know, we're not safe. No wonder you can't lose fat. Your body will start burning muscle first, right? So then, like, even in a calorie deficit, I'm not burning fat and I'm looking even weaker. Yeah, because your body's going to burn muscle first. So we've got to reduce that stress, right? You can do this by making sure your sleep's on point, right? Meditating, taking walks, like we said with the movement. You see how they all link together? And if you eat well as well, right, it also reduces your cortisol, and because you're not spiking your blood sugar all the time, it's not putting you in that stress state. So we want to increase our testosterone, lower our cortisol, keep our insulin in check, do these three things so we keep our hormones in check as well, and that is how you're going to lose fat. Obviously, there's the training part of it, which is where this comes in, the muscle building side of things, right? So, in order to build muscle, right, you need to strength train. Strength train is very simple. What I mean by that is you just want to get stronger, right? I'm not talking about becoming a power lifter, but I'm just talking about getting stronger over time, whether that be doing more reps, lifting more weight, probably doing both. That's the right way to do it, right? Taking more time with the weight, etc. Basically, what's going to allow your body to realize it's not as strong as it needs to be, and then it will adapt by putting on muscle. That's the only way that's how muscle works, right? It needs a stressor, right? Which is you lifting weight and failing or struggling. Then it's like, okay, I need to put on muscle. So when you recover, the muscle comes back, but bigger and stronger. This is why recovery is so important. It's actually where the muscle is built. Your muscle is, the stimulus is given in the gym, breaking the muscle down, but when you relax, rest, meditate, sleep, relax, that is when your muscle's being built back. Now, in order to build the muscle back, it can't just build out of thin air. It needs energy. Energy is neither created or destroyed. So where does it get it from? It gets it from your food. So your protein, your carbs, and your fat. These are all very important to building muscle. Everyone thinks protein is the only thing that helps build muscle. It's what is used as the blocks to build muscle, but carbs are needed in order to provide you with the right amount of energy, right, to perform well in your workouts and actually trigger that stimulus. And fats are very good for the hormones, which we spoke about earlier on, and they're also an energy source at the same time. So you see how all of them are needed. Now, at the end of the day, none of this is going to work if you're not focused on progressive overload and consistency. Progressive overload, very simple. You probably heard the term a lot, and at the end of the day, keep it very simple so you understand it. It's just, like I said earlier on, progressing over time, getting stronger over time, just improving over time, right? You do progressive overload in everything in your life that you've gotten better at. If you're, trying to get better at a skill, maybe sales or marketing, you start off with what you can do. You try, you learn, you fail, you get better, you repeat, and you keep the process going. Same in the gym, or same with your training. Let's say you're doing push-ups. You do 10 push-ups your first day. You can't do any more than that. You come back the next day, maybe hit 10 again, maybe hit 9. Then you try again. Okay, I hit 11 today. Okay, I'm hitting 11 the next day. Let me add another set in so now I can hit 2 sets of 11. And you're slowly progressing, right? Giving the body a chance, giving the body the stimulus it needs in order to get put on that muscle. That's why you cannot just go easy in the gym. You have to push yourself. You have to go hard, and you have to train with intensity so that when you're in the gym, outside the gym, recover. Inside the gym, push hard. And if you're consistent with this, this is what allows you to build the muscle. Now, why is it important to build muscle if we're talking about fat? One, who doesn't want muscle? But two, these things work hand in hand. The more muscle you have, the more calories and energy it takes to preserve the muscle and to build the muscle, meaning you probably achieve a calorie deficit easier, right? So you burn more fat, but because you're triggering muscle at the same time, you're burning fat and building muscle. And this is how I achieved this here. I'm stronger in this photo on the right than I am on the left. Insane, right? It's just how it is. I actually, I burn fat while getting stronger and putting on muscle. It's not impossible. This is what you call a body recomposition. So when it comes to body recomposition, like I said, that's when you're building muscle and burning fat at the same time. There is a sweet spot for that, right? You want to be focused on, let's not overcomplicate it. Focus on the fat loss masterclass, focus on the muscle gain, right? And if you focus on both of them at the same time, not trying to go too extreme in either direction, like not putting yourself in the extreme calorie deficit, right? Not eating loads and loads and loads of food, like ridiculous amounts so that you're putting on fat and muscle at the same time. If you do both of these at the same time, you can burn fat and build muscle. I've done it. Many people I work with have done it. It's just how humans are meant to be. It's not about bulking and cutting. Anyone that told you need to do heavy bulks, heavy cuts, and like bodybuilder style, you're not a bodybuilder. So why the hell are you going to do it like that? That's like me trying to tell you to train like a footballer to build I don't know, speed when you're trying to become a tennis player. It doesn't make sense. You got to do what's right for you and the goals you want. And everyone that I work with, and including myself, we don't want to be professional athletes. We want to be fit as strong as possible, right? Which might actually put us above a lot of the average people. But there's other things in our lives that are important: business, family, social life, career, etc. So if this sounds like you and you would love to understand how this method could be applied to your specific situation and you need help implementing it, I have a link in the description which is going to take you to my calendar to book in a free 1 hour health audit call with me, and we're just going to go over your exact situation and talk about how we can get from where you are now to where you want to get to and put that plan together in place. If that's what you want to do, brilliant. If not, hope you enjoyed this video and you got some value out of it, and I will speak to you in the next one.